on one hand, the agile movement is declining, at least the A word. I don't think the needs are gone. The CEO, people on the board, they don't care. They say, look at the numbers and they're good, all fine. No, we did it, we believe in it, there's more to it. But then once it's implemented, they have the maximum autonomy. And if you're as a leader in this organization not supporting the new ways of working, you get kicked out.
Scrumcraft is committed to empowering individuals and teams through their 3 core services, each designed to drive meaningful and sustainable change. First, Scrumcraft Academy offers cutting-edge training that goes far beyond basics. They equip you with the practical skills and product delivery, design, and leadership, while also helping you seamlessly integrate AI into your business operations. Their focus on real-world application ensures that you're not just learning, but mastering the skill that truly matters. Next, Scrumcraft Consulting provides expert human-centered guidance tailored towards your organization's specific needs. Whether it's agile coaching, product ownership, or transformational leadership, Scrumcraft partners with you to address your unique challenges. Together, they'll co-create innovative solutions that foster sustainable growth and drive long-term success. Finally, Scrumcraft Mentoring is dedicated to unlocking your personal and professional potential. Whether you aim to advance your career, enhance your business acumen, or hone your leadership abilities, their mentoring services are tailored to support your unique journey. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Agility at Scale. Today, we're honored to have Mirko Kleiner with us, and Mirko is a recognized leader in the agile transformation and scaling agility across organizations. Mirko is the thought leader behind Lead Agile Procurement and is award-winning procurement award winner for CIPS and World Procurement Award. Keynote speaker, author, there's a whole list here, president of the LAP Alliance, co-founder of Flow Days. He's an agile ecosystem coach, registered Scrum at Scale and Scrum trainer. High five. And co-creator of the Agile Contract Manifesto. So Mirko's expertise lies in transforming not only just teams, but entire organizations, from their processes to their mindset, enabling them to achieve sustainable agility at scale. We're super excited to have him share his insights today. Please join me in welcoming Mirko Kleiner. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you for having me. Yeah, it's exciting. Nowadays, we just spoke before we went live. What's the next step in Agile? Some, even say Agile is dead. I see it completely different. And I'm very happy to share with you and inspire you a little bit today where things are heading. And it's basically, what could be obviously not the only next stage, but what could be the next big thing, not just in Agile, but for businesses, organizations, etc. So let's start with something small, something everybody uses every day, and that recently caused a huge crisis. I'm talking about the chip shortage that hit the car industry during COVID. And the impacts were quite tremendous. Just in the US, with the biggest 2 car manufacturers, they were unable to deliver their cars just because of this little computer chips. So more than 300,000 cars were put on park. And if you think about Agile, it's all about delivery, right? Obviously much more than that, but in the center of the things is we want to deliver. And so they failed. So what was the key reason for that? Well, there are some other roles we might be not so familiar with, like procurement and account management, supply chain, etc., that did some forecasts together with the business and said, there is a upcoming crisis. So maybe the sales will go down. So the lean thinking in that is we need to stop our current orders, otherwise we have inventory, which is waste. And this then, unfortunately, of course, this then led to that all those chip manufacturers, swapped to other orders like webcams, as you can imagine, during the COVID crisis and other stuff. And so now they were hanging in the queue as they realized what they have done. Just for you to give a little bit of an idea what supply chain means, so there might be some newbies in this session. So a car has more than 3,000 semiconductors, some very stupid ones and some very high advanced, and none of the car manufacturers has their own chip factory, so that this is usually outsourced to specialized suppliers, and it's for many other things. So we could summarize this that most of the car manufacturers are basically design and assembly companies. So and obviously everything where we have a business case with bigger problems, bigger challenges, the setup is quite similar. So why did Tesla not face such challenges? First of all, they haven't stopped the orders, but then also they didn't have a single source strategy, like just one supplier with a very specific specification per computer chip. They made it more outcome based, which then helped them to even switch suppliers in no time, and they also had the flexibility and even rewrote some of their operating system. So this just as a little bit of an introduction to the topic. So what is the supply chain thing, and why is it important to scale across companies to think of it at least? Well, if we sum this up, we have currently in the Agile community, we have two movements. What worked so nicely on a team level, we want to scale to the company level, right? Like company agility or product agility or whatever you want to call it. And at the same time, we have everything about personal agility, behaviors, leadership, etc. And as you can see on the right-hand side, everything of that is valuable and creates an impact. So even we as individuals could have an impact. But now if we think things even bigger across companies, across the whole value creation or supply chain, then we have introduced kind of the next big thing where we can see that the impact is even much bigger. Downside of this, if we look at that, is if we are just focused on ourselves and we don't include our strategic partners, no matter in which business you are, could be services, could be whatsoever, then the business agility doesn't stop at the company front door. It's like in the lean days. We need to get agile as a whole, otherwise we are not agile. And trapped again, like the car manufacturers. So if you don't believe me, then you might know this guy. I'm just back from China. We are collaborating with this company called Hire, and they are the most advanced company, in my opinion. Not just advanced, they're 20 years ahead of everybody. And gonna just want to tell you a little bit what they do and how they do it. And what they basically did is they have it's not a startup, so that's why I love them as well. They have undertaken in the past 50 years 6 major transformations, and in the last transformations they have pulled down the whole pyramid and hierarchy, and are now operating 80,000, more than 80,000 people are now operating in over 4,700 so-called micro enterprises, which is nothing else than team of teams. So But if you think about it, such a team or a micro enterprise obviously can't, design, manufacture, ship, sell, so the whole product life cycle. They can't do it just as one team, right? So they need to partner up with other teams, and they create so-called micro communities. This is all fluid, so it's not that somebody tells them you have to do it, or if the product evolves into something else, then they might reassemble. And they do reassemble, or at least refine the business, the objectives, but also the organization on a monthly basis. So now, how can they do that? How can they be so fast? Well, those so-called micro communities, traditionally, that has been a supply chain, where each of the leading, or the in this case of the car manufacturers like Ford, would order, from first tier some whatever seats or computer chips, and then this supplier would then have its own suppliers. Now here, everybody is on the same page, and instead of contracting one another, they have one contract in the center of their gravity. It's a mutual agreement. They call it an ecosystem contract, and this is updated on a monthly basis at least. So if you don't perform, or if the business case is changing, they're gonna adapt. And if the whole business case doesn't work out, the whole organization will deassemble and find some new business cases. So for the business guys in the call, Hire is one of the most successful companies in terms of growth, etc. And what I like about it, beside the success and that they are not a software company, or not only that manufacturing hardware is included, they really brought everything together. But what struck me is their set of values. Everything is based on a win-win mentality. So on one hand, all the team members in those so-called micro enterprises could take profit. So it's not just that they are employees; they actually are called entrepreneurs. And then this win-win mentality goes across this other micro enterprises. So it's not we have invented it and we take it all. So they have profit sharing mechanisms. And 2 years ago, they opened up this whole concept to even third-party suppliers. So now, if that's a third party, they can participate in the success as well. And so just imagine they are sitting at the table, they're joining the dailies, the planning, everything kind of, and they're no more treated as externals. So this is a little bit an outlook where we could land with this whole concept scaling across companies. So what I brought with me is where can we start? So I have 3 guiding questions, and I want to walk you through with also some examples. So the first question is, who is accountable for the suppliers? If you really break it down and just imagine there is just one team, your whole corporation might have thousands of employees, different silos and functions and departments, but let's imagine for a second the whole organization is just one team. Let me bring up a poll here. So in the meanwhile, you could scan the poll there. We'll bring it up just a second. So I'm keen on hearing your opinion on that. So if the whole company consists just of a Scrum team, which of the roles do you think is accountable for suppliers? And just for your information, there's no right or wrong. Scrum Guide has not defined it yet. So some of you think the Scrum team, yeah. Some of you the product owner. Very well. So I think what I want to inspire you with this short poll here and with this guiding question is, it shouldn't be somebody outside of the team or team of teams organization. We can agree on that. But let me bring up the slides again. So if you think about it, in our days, we might have a DevOps team, right? The DevOps team is responsible for development and operations, but who decided to use Jira? Who decided to use this third-party partner and so forth? It's very often it's somebody outside of the team. And what we are looking for is having DevOps teams on steroids. So here's an example from automotive. So Lightyear used to be a scale up, their vision was to build the very first completely solar powered car. And as we were engaged, they were set up, 800 people were very traditionally set up, right? And the CPO, the former chief procurement officer, reached out to me and said, I have this vision. We want to become the best customer for our vendors and partners, because whoever of you have been working in automotive might agree that this whole supply chain relationship is very much screwed. It's just focused on costs and so forth. So we said, well, that's very much in line with our values, and we started with simply, as always, setting up a cross-functional team. And we defined a mission of the team, part of the system, the car structure, the body and mind. And we discussed about what's our accountability and responsibility. Where does the system start and where does it end? And I was taking the principles of hire and say, okay, what if we are end-to-end responsible? So not just for the design. What if we are responsible also for the tooling, the manufacturing, for maintenance, for everything? And so we started to set up with internals from R&D, procurement, cost engineers, and whatsoever. But obviously, we missed a lot of capabilities. So we brought some key vendors at the table, and it turned out that we've spoken that they considered us as aliens, because the first question they asked was, where are the specs, and because the only thing they knew so far was stage gate process, where the specs are frozen, and then they design their tooling or set up their manufacturing, etc. So we needed to define a working agreement or an ecosystem kind of agreement, where we introduced, just as example, one principle: we welcome change, which was revolution to most of them. And because just to give you one example, one project out of this team would be to create a mold. It's a $10 million investment, and such a project usually takes 2 years. And we said, well, based on the principle we welcome change, we don't want to waste 10 millions. We don't want to wait 2 years. We want to have something in the next 2 weeks or 2 months at least. And this then raised new ideas, new questions. We can use tooling from rapid prototyping in manufacturing. And because it's much cheaper, doesn't last that long. And we asked, okay, how long does it last? Maybe a month max, and say, oh, super, we have a sprint length. So long story short, instead of having an agile transformation we started to combine here the product development and the organizational development, and everything was evolving at the same time. And this then became kind of a pattern which could be replicated to other systems. Now, the second guiding question is, you might be familiar with the business model canvas. And there is one section, key partners. And the inventor of the business model canvas, also a Swiss guy, Alex Osterwalder, I asked him, how do you get to the key partners? And he said, well, what the fuck? that's usually really a challenge. And because that takes forever, right? And so I want to ask you, how do you select your key partners? Let me just bring up. Let me just bring up the poll again. There we go. Some of you are a bit involved, lucky you. Reality is very often that decisions are taken outside of the team by middle managers or other authorities that often are not as close at the problem as we are. But yeah, also in this this audience, majority of you is not owning the decision, is not owning the relationship with third party, or even has the budget and the authority to choose your own suppliers and partners or service providers. So you're nothing special. So there is still a lot to do, because DevOps is not enough. It's not the end, if you think about it. So let me bring back my slides. Here we go. So an example here, what we did, so I'm the inventor of Lean Agile Procurement, which is nothing else than setting up a DevOps team on steroids, where the DevOps team owns this decision. It has the budget, it has everything. So sometimes we extend an existing team, sometimes we have to set it up from scratch. And in this case, the business challenge was the replacement of an existing ERP system. So in this case, the head of finance became the product owner. We had people from accounting, HR, procurement, IT, software in this DevOps team on steroids. And they basically did the whole sourcing together. So now they were empowered to source for themselves, not somebody else did the sourcing for them. Now the magic in Lean Agile Procurement is if something is complex, we can't just exchange paperwork like, hey, here are the specs, please do a proposal, and then here is a contract, let's do the negotiations. There are a lot of potential assumptions and risks, etc. So at its core, Lean Agile Procurement, we bring together the shortlisted vendors. In this case, it was 3. There was also shortlisted by this DevOps team. They were empowered to do that. And then instead of asking for their proposals, we invited them for a 2-day workshop where we co-created their proposals simultaneously with all the 3 in parallel. We run a proof of concept, so not just pitch presentations with happy path, things that anyway work. No, we gave them really challenges from the current business. And what was crucial is in this approach, we want to get in collaboration with key people of a potential joint delivery. So the salespeople are there, decision takers are there, sometimes even lawyers, but we want to have not the A team in the presentation and then later on we get the B team. So really assessing also the expertise, but also the social and culture fit. Do we like each other? And to give you, just some insights here, what happened. So one of the things was during the workshop, we realized that we have forgotten to prepare a licensing model. And for those of you that are in software, know this could be a huge cost driver if you take the wrong assumption. So we immediately stopped the workshop and asked the 3 competitors, could you please, for the next 15 minutes, forget that you're competitors and you know the amount of users, you know now the context that we are in with this ERP solution, etc. And please co-create an optimal licensing model for us. And they just did. Another anecdote is at the end, this DevOps team selected one of the 3 vendors, vendor A, but they also cherry-picked an extraordinary person from vendor B, which never ever happens if you're just sending back and forth proposals. This obviously also works online. It's a bit more challenging. Here is another case with Roche Pharmaceutical. We had the big 4 consultancies in 5 Google Hangout sessions simultaneously, more than 70 people. And in this case, the team decided to kick off the whole session having a panel across the competitors with their senior partners. And they were having a discussion, where what's important in this context, where's the market heading and what challenges, etc. So you're completely free how to design such a workshop. So the third guiding question is, how should we manage a partner more agile? And if you think about it, relationship with a strategic partner is like, there are a lot of similarities with a partner in life. So you want to meet on the same eye level, you want to treat each other equally and so forth. Very rarely seen in practice in the business world. So I found here a little video that I like to play. It's a parody, so don't take it too serious, but also observe and try to map it to the real world in business.
But I can't trust him. I feel like he doesn't respect or appreciate all the things I do for him.
What?
Hold on. Let's let her finish expressing how she feels.
Well, let's start by looking at the forecasts he provides me. They are extremely inaccurate. He knows. It's a never-ending headache when dealing with inventory and service levels, but he just doesn't care.
I get grief about my forecasts at every one of our meetings. Believe me, I wish I had time to provide her with the information she needs. But how about some appreciation for the revenue that I bring in, huh?
Well, how about showing some appreciation for what I do? You have no idea how complex it is to plan and manage new product introductions, distributions, procurement, and also delivering what you need so that you can focus on selling. All I'm asking for is a little more consideration, future warnings, and accurate forecasts.
I want this to work. You know that. I wouldn't be here if I didn't. I just want to make a little profit.
Yeah, it's that's a great one. So let's do a final poll. It's a word cloud. So how is your buyer supplier relationship? So what can you see some similarities from the parody from the video, and what else comes to mind? So it could be that you are on the supply side, but it could be that you're on the client buyer side. Doesn't matter. Yeah, very much focus very often on short-term gains. Yeah, paperwork, complicated, demanding, challenging. I agree. So what? Why we have started Lean Agile Procurement 9 years back was the commercial roles are not yet agile. That becomes a problem to reach true business agility. And it's not their fault, they just don't know better. So they're still very much focused on costs, improvement, savings. It's very transactional. And so whoever of you that is an agile coach, no matter internally or external, start a conversation with your commercial roles. If you're on supply side of sales, account management, if you're on the buyer side, if you're procurement guys, business partners, etc. Because they're facing a lot of our challenges that we have. You might not speak their language, but there's a lot of room for improvement. And just one little note that keeps me motivated is you could have a direct business impact. So in this ERP case, we reduced time to market from what usually is a 12 months project into 4 weeks, right? And so in this case, it was not a sourcing case for directly for the customer, but we were impacting internal efficiency gains, right? So either we have the efficiency gains in 12 months plus delivery time, or we can have it immediately, which could mean millions if you think about the market impact. So we have a direct impact on revenues, and we have even applied it on in public sector successfully all over the world in the meanwhile. So let's go back to the slides. So if you have developed trust, then magic can happen. Because if you are just treated as a supplier, very much focused on costs, you won't get innovation. You won't get co-creation, right? There are the levels of psychological safety. In the meanwhile, we know that. But as we started, there was no psychological safety models. And this is another case, Echo. This is second biggest company in agriculture products. They build also tractors. And we were approached for supporting them in a savings program. We said, no, we don't do that. It's against our values. But if you're interested in innovation, we would be happy to support you. And so we set up again the DevOps team on steroids, consisting of all the different roles and capabilities. And they came up with something that they call an agile product cleaning. So what they basically did, they took a tractor into its pieces, and we invited internal stakeholders like people from product management, marketing, but also people from the line, cost engineers whatsoever, current suppliers, and also competitors. And we asked them, what are your ideas? Better materials, less components, new materials, etc., etc. And they just did it, right? So it could be so much fun going into co-creation. Another example you might not know, but the joint development of the COVID-19 vaccine between the three major companies, Pfizer, BioNTech, and Fosun, was also done very much on a trust-based collaboration. So we were fortunate to have Ugur Sain, CEO of BioNTech, on the World Agility Forum last year as a speaker, and he said this was a multi-billion-dollar investment where none of us could do it alone, and none of us knew if we're going to be successful. Now, traditionally, think of the lawyers, IP, and everything that got in your way. Traditionally, we would do endless negotiations, and they said, well, we don't know. So instead of losing time, and they just started. And what they did instead was they agreed on a minimum viable governance, on a minimum definition of cost and potential profit split. And then they just started. And as they went along and things became more feasible that they're going to make it, they started in parallel then to do all the contract negotiations in more detail.
Trust-based collaboration was the most successful way of dealing with the project. I strongly believe that all trust-based collaborations would be much superior than collaborations which are based on control. But we don't have that. All our contracts are based about control. And the question goes to you guys, how a contractual system can be built which allows based collaboration to be the usual way and not the absolute exception.
Yeah, and the good news is we have come up with something like that. We call it the home of Agile contracts. And I will share the link as well at the very end. We've even come up with a little tool, a little software where you can define your context and then it suggests you the more optimal Agile contract, because there is not the one Agile contract, and fixed price is not a bad thing either. It really depends on your context, which one you want to choose. So making a long story short, how to manage partnerships more Agile? Well, let's apply Agile, right? So we, the Lean Agile Procurement Alliance, we are partnering with 31 other alliances and universities, etc. And instead of having 6 months partner negotiations, etc., we said, let's just start. We don't know each other. Let's define an objective for the next sprint and work towards it. Something that, you know, where we have a win-win, and so and then let's define the next thing. So it really becomes an iterative development instead of a one-off definition what our partnership should look like. So what's in it for we, and where should we start? Well, in my opinion, we are very much focused on ourselves in the Agile community. We are focused on our products, on our organization, but we should start even bigger. So who else is involved? Are there strategic partners? So I changed my questionnaire when we get engaged and in transformational work. And my leading question today is, are there some strategic partners? And if yes, why are they no part of the transformation team? Because we are all in it together, right? And immediately your consultancy engagement doubles, triples. The nice side effect. Then second is get in touch with those commercial roles because they need a lot of capability building. They face exactly the same people, the same challenges, and it's a blue ocean. Nobody else is there. So instead of competing with any kind of Agile coaches in the red ocean. It's a nice place to be. And then last but not least, start, right? It doesn't matter what you do, it can't get worse. So just start. And I have one more thing, and what is this ecosystem thing? So both BioNTech, Pfizer, and Fosun, and Higher are more organized like boundaryless organisms across companies. And so traditionally we have this point-to-point contracts, and then there might be suppliers in the background. Now, in an ecosystem, we bring everybody at the same at the table from the start. Sometimes it could be even compliance or internal or external regulators, so that we could share a joint purpose. And you don't have to, but it could even end up in a mutual contract where we share the purpose, share the objectives, have a shared timeline, and could think of how we're going to solve it and what is feasible from day one. Now, to make this work, we're very proud. We have recently announced, we call it a lean ecosystem canvas, that gives some guidance on how to set up an ecosystem. So you will also get a link to that. And obviously, the whole governance plays a vital role in that, but there is more to learn, especially on the commercial side of things, right? A lot of us are not yet used to commercial models or contractual models, etc. So this is us. If you want to know more about, look up lap-alliance.com, and I suggest you pick up your phone one last time to download the slides, but also get an email with all of those links. And I'm happy to, open up the discussion.
Thank you so much. That's really fantastic. I will encourage people to come off mute and ask questions, but we do have a number of them in the chat as well, which we can draw upon. If there's something pressing, something somebody feels like they want to ask right now while things are fresh, then feel free to come off mute. There are a couple of early questions in regards to the Haier example, and Anthony was asking, when you've got the entrepreneurs in a team of teams, how do those guys organize themselves around very big things? Like, I guess maybe there's a question there about how big is a team of teams, maybe.
Yeah, so it could end up in thousands of people. So they try to keep the micro enterprises as small as possible. So we have heard stories that, like in Scrum, not bigger than 9 to 10, but it could also be that a factory has 1,000 people and they are organized as a micro enterprise. The whole idea behind it is, if you work towards your own purpose and balance sheet, you are forced to be up to date, to serve your internal and external customers, and be also as flexible as possible, and adaptable, and that's one of their key success criteria, I would say.
Cool. And Bhairav was asking a question in regards to perhaps he asked the question really early on, but also it relates to some of the final slides as well. Should contracts be signed for 1 month so that you've got the opportunity to identify as to whether it's working or not?
Well, I have mixed feelings with that, right? So on one hand, partnership should evolve iteratively. So if you have a statement of work that lasts for 12 months, it could be fine, right? But I like to have the smaller chunks, So for those of you that are familiar with contracting, usually we have a master service agreement in place. And that could live forever because we are not supposed to switch the partner if everything's fine. But because procurement was so hard up till now, this transactional nature of it, we usually just run through it just once. So that's why we end up with statement of works that last for 12, 24, or even more months. Now, as procurement becomes fun and easy and fast, we basically could do mini tenders for 2, 3, 6 months, right? Depending on the context. My personal opinion is it should at least include a few sprints, because if you're just contracting one sprint after the other, you miss the point of Agile. There's no opportunity to learn, right? You could screw up the whole thing in the first sprint and it was not your fault, and then you lose the whole relationship. So at least a few sprints, whatever that means, right? Nowadays it could be 1 month, still 1 month, but we have 4 or even more sprints within it, and then it's all good. But I wouldn't judge if somebody still goes for a 6 or 12 months contract. It really depends a little bit on the context.
Thank you. I'm looking down the list here and I'm seeing a really cool question from Anthony that's probably been liked by a couple of people as well. We obviously got these competing suppliers and potentially your own product competitors coming together in some of these examples. How do you get people, Anthony asks, how do you get people to jump beyond their competitive commercial context and set up an environment for them to be in a trusting relationship?
Yeah, great question. So first of all, it's really in the last part of the question, you already gave your answer, right? We need to invest to set up this trustful environment. It's not just there. So usually there are a few briefings beforehand, and we always say the partnership starts even before we meet in person or in this workshop. So it could also mean that we deselect some of the partners because in those early calls, we realize there's no fit for purpose or no cultural fit, etc. The other thing is it's actually a funny observation. If you come together and if you bring people, in particular, if you bring people together from delivery, after 5 minutes, they've forgotten that the others are competitors because they are delivery focused, right? It's not in their DNA usually. Now it's different with the sales and the leadership, right? They're super scared, right? So we usually give them 2, 3 tools at hand. So first of all, in the prior briefings, we ask them, which of the agenda items, which of the topics you want to take into private sessions, you don't want to share publicly, and we take that serious. Usually it's the commercials, some IP-related stuff, contractual details. And then another nice tool is give everybody a yellow card, right? So that they can raise it during the workshop and say, look, now we are in a gray zone. We don't feel comfortable to share that or to continue the conversation like across the competitors. Yeah, so it's really not a problem. Everybody thinks it's a problem that competitors come together. It's not. That there is this maybe one more side story. We had in one case where one of the competitors struggled in their presentation, and then one of his competitors jumped in and thought, I think John wanted to say this and that, and helped him to come on track again. And we immediately stopped the workshop, me as a facilitator, and said, what just happened? Why have you done that? He said, look, today we are competitors. The next project we are partners again. Mm-hmm. You see? So yes, we need to take it serious, all their concerns. We have a lot of concerns on the buyer side as well. We make it a topic, we bring it to the table. We hopefully can discuss about it honestly. Prior to the workshop with some of the topics, some at the workshop, and that builds also the trust that we need to go into a partnership.
The key is that you pre-select out or pre-filter out some of those who clearly aren't going to come and play.
Absolutely, yeah. So we have had cases where one of the vendor was the best product, the most competitive pricing, most scalable partner, etc., but they were simply assholes. So we sent them home after an hour, right? It's a pity, but we won't be successful just because of that aspect.
Sensational. Ben, you've got your hand up, buddy.
Yeah, thanks, mate. On this topic then, obviously, like, we're all here and many of us are thinking, like, this is really cool. I'm like, there's a light bulb for me because I used to go into the supply chain in manufacturing and teach them lean, but I've never been in supply chain and taught people agile. It's weird, isn't it? Light bulb moment for me. But on the like change curve, if you think about the bell curve, what percentage of organizations do you think are able to put their tools down and come to the party? Are we talking 5%, 20%? Just in your experience, obviously you've got probably limited experience in the sector you're in perhaps, but globally, you're in this field way more than we are. What's your insight on that?
What do you mean by are able?
If you were to go out to tender and you were to say, we're going to run this approach.
Yeah.
Sectors that you work in, from that supply chain, how many are coming to the table to adopt this approach?
So first of all, it's a great question. So first of all, it's new to almost everybody, right? And the cases where we had to disqualify some of the vendors in the early stage is very, very low. I would say 1%. So in terms of being able, everybody's able. It's really to create this psychological safety. In the end, the suppliers want to make business, right? And what we often forget is, procurement folks, they're just used to their process. That's where they feel home. And the sales guy, it's the same thing. They don't know anything other. Now, if we can explain both parties, there is a better way where it's more cheap. It's 50% more cheap. It's sometimes up to 800% faster. From a supplier perspective, time to market also matters. So what a lot of people do underestimate is if you are on the buyer side, you make the rules of the game, and the suppliers will usually just follow. Now, is everybody very comfortable with it? No. Will some of them feel more home because of their culture, etc.? Absolutely. But we don't see, I gave the example of Roche, right? Even the big four consultancies made it. I didn't expect that.
Thank you.
Okie dokie. Are there any other questions? I'm going to come off mute to ask a question.
Maybe one more comment, Ben, on your light bulb moment. We are teaching just lean. Well, lean is fine, right? If the product is stable. I was last week at Hire, saw one of their production line. I'm not a manufacturing guy, so I don't know what's the latest shit. But they showed us mass customization, and it's crazy, right? They have one production line where they can build cars, not just different models or different colors, but a sedan and the bus on the same line, and up to 10 different types, and and the speed is unseen, in my opinion. So it takes 15 days from the order, a personalized order, till you get your car, bus, whatever you. So they completely take it to the next level, and they're just going with the market, right? The market demands personalized things, whatever personalization means per context. And they're setting up for that. So even in hardware. Gaurav.
Gaurav, you've got your hand up?
Look, this is not a question maybe for Mirko, but Jason, this is more for you. So what fundamentals Mirko just shared with us? And I'm going to go very specific over here because you understand the Adelaide market. Do you think this kind of tender process or the procurement process you can see in state government or Fed government or local government in South Australia or all over Australia? Because this is, like Ben said, that this is a light bulb moment, but it's more of a unpractical. They will not accept this kind of thing, maybe. What are your views?
Yeah. So long story short is we are applying it in public sector all over the world. Because if you think about public tenders, they're screwed, right? They're aiming for maximizing outcome for value for citizens' money, but they're not, right? The more complex the cases get, the higher the failure rate and the disasters, etc. So I'm currently supporting the Canadian government. They're undertaking their whole shared services organization and agile transformation. So procurement is part of that. In defense, you can imagine, they have no more the time. So the chief of staff, Canada, told us, currently they need digital platforms, let's imagine Amazon, for some, submission, highly security, etc. So it takes a supplier to set up maybe a few hours. Their whole procurement takes 12 months. So it's out of bounds. It's out of bounds. So we have cases, even Australia, New Zealand, even public cases awarded have been awarded by a procurement community. So it's possible. And for all of you that are in the public sector, sometimes procurement folks, commercial people in public sector think, yeah, private sector, that works, but we are different, right? We have rules and regulation laws whatsoever. Now think of Roche or think of banking. They're even more regulated than public sector, and it still works. So the short answer to that is, why does it work? We are setting up a DevOps team on steroids. In banking or public sector, if we know the rules and regulation might become an impediment, we add an expert to the team. And this person will make sure that we are compliant all the time. And we will be within the boundaries, right? But if there are handoffs, if we just do whatever we want and then we run into the wall at the end and say, you can't publish that because of you're not playing within the rules, we are screwed, right? So we need to mitigate all those risks as a team. So it's no more a procurement task, it's a joint task. And I always tell the procurement folks, yeah, you have your rules and regulation. IT guys have their rules and regulation too, right? And the business guys as well, lawyers as well. So let's bring all those capabilities to the table and let's see what is possible so that we can increase time to market together.
I think as well, just building on that a little bit further and to reinforce some of the closing comments there. I'd imagine that if you were to look back in time, there would have been plenty of people in the software
environment that when this agile thing, I don't know how it's going to work for us because we're different, we're unique, right? And I just think of it as the challenge isn't actually different. Your context might be different, but the challenge itself isn't actually that different. You've got to get past the mindset. You've got to get inclusivity happening, the same problems that you're trying to resolve. So it's the appetite to make change that is the perseverance of that will actually see you through.
Yeah, if I may add to that, so Hire as an example, they don't have any so-called supportive functions anymore. It became a capability in those teams. You can't partner without knowing how procurement and legal, etc., works, right? So everything that what was possible, they have platformized to support all those teams and micro enterprises. And but other than that, it becomes a capability. We are supporting companies all over the world, so supply chain organization, to make them obsolete. Because if you think about it, supply chain organizations, you have always too less resources, too less people. Doesn't scale, so you become a bottleneck to the organization. So with Roche, for example, we are helping them to become a capability and enablement organization. So now they either go into the agile teams and support them, or they enable them so that they can do it themselves. And the third task is to offer a platform where the business has access to all the information that they need. So that's also a strategy, all those functions. Is it HR? Is it finance? Is it procurement, sales, whatsoever? They usually have their own platforms designed for themselves. Well, that's majority level 1 out of 5. Level 2 should be we make all those platforms transparent and accessible for the business. Now, if you have that in mind, then your super sophisticated platform might be too complex, right? So you should consider that already by introducing a vendor management or supply management system or your next ERP or whatsoever. Because otherwise, we are just cementing the silos. That's maybe another topic.
Awesome. Okay, guys, we're at time, so I'm just conscious that Mirko's been traveling a lot, and he's home for a few days before he's off to New York, I think. Next.
Yeah, next stop, New York and DC. Yeah.
Yeah. So we really appreciate your time tonight, Mirko. So thank you so much for spending it with us. If you've got any follow-up questions, feel free to shoot them through. Feel free to connect with Mirko. And there is a link for the free download in the chat. I'll pop that also into the Meetup app as well, so that if you lose it from chat after closing down, you'll have access to it afterwards as well.
Super. So, thank you so much for having me, Jason. Thanks for setting this up, and wish you all the best on your journey. Either you're a consultant, agile coach, supporting your clients, or if you're internal. Thank you all. Have a nice day.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
All the best.